Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today, of course, is Wednesday, February the 4th, 2026. So we're, of course, 10 days away from Valentine's Day, as well as, of course, the hump day of this week. Um, well, it looks like we have at least three people in here, so maybe I will get right into talking about what's on tap for tonight. So tonight, and again, a friendly reminder, of course, before we do get started. If you guys haven't already, you guys help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to gauge. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, let's see now. So tonight, I'm going to go over. So we got our first indie comic showcase of the year from Bleeding Full. So Chris Braley finally got a ICS article out this week. So we'll be going over that. Of course, we'll be getting all caught up on what happened on last night's NXT, including the crowning of a new NXT champion. And then looking ahead to tonight's Dynamite. And then from there, I'll wrap things up with this day in each history. I do need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back, but I'll put some music on to entertain you guys while I'm going. Here. All right. Well, since I've already committed to getting the show started here, let's go ahead and get right into it then. I usually would have waited for at least a couple minutes to see if more people showed up. It looks like we basically did have some more people here. So, anyways, let's get into article of the evening here. Usually these articles take a while. That's why I only did the one for tonight. Because with some of the other extracurricular stuff we have to do, of course. So, Indie Comic Showcase number 313, Three Brothers Gruff, Titan Mouse, and Return of the Rooftop Koreans. Article by Chris Braley, published today. Now, normally, of course, we wait till Thursday to do these when they come out on Wednesdays, but it just so happens that this happened to come up at a time when we didn't have anything else. Wasn't sure if anything else was going to happen. So we'll get right into this. So welcome back to another installment of Indie Comic Showcase, weekly blog where we signal boost a few truly independent comics that are currently crowdfunding their projects, crowdsourcing their funding in some way, or just completely self-publishing on their own. Every little bit of support for these creators matters, from a single dollar pledge to the $25 bundle, and of course, the higher tiers are usually fun too. Even if you can't back a campaign or buy a book, you can share a tweet about these projects to your friends and followers, or you can also check out my coverage of it when I do these. Because I usually put the links up as well. For you to check them out as well. So let's see now. All right, so let's see. On Indie Comic Showcase, we interview the creators, show off some art, tell you how you can check out the product for yourself. Below, we have some outstanding crowdfunding campaigns this week for you to learn about, enjoy, and hopefully support by backing one or more of them. Thanks for checking these out and for being the best part of Indie Comic Showcase. Let's jump in. So, of course, the first one we're going to look at here first is Titan Mouse by Gary Shipman. So let me go. That's interesting. Let me go grab the link for that. And I will, of course, share it. Let's see what kind of project is it? It's a Fund My Comic project. Copy that. We got that taken care of now. So let me see about. All right, so let's see. There's that there. And let's go ahead and put it here so people can. Alrighty then, so there we go with that. So here's of course the link for both my YouTube and my Rumble viewers. Guys want to go check that out? There's the links right there. All right, so let's get into the article now. Now that we got the sharing done on that. So Chris Braley, for folks new to your work, how would you describe Titan Mouse? What's the big idea behind the story? We get right into it. Gary Shipman. Titan is an extraordinary creature endowed with powers beyond that of any normal mouse. Titan is from another world where the animals are intelligent. See the Packins Land comic series. After an accidental explosion opens a doorway between two worlds, Titan is transported to the world of man, where his epic story unfolds. Believing himself to be the only survivor of the explosion, Titan is plagued with PTSD, the effects of which leave him powerless at times. Titan sets out on a mission to free the animals who have survived the testing of the RRC. Oh, there we go. And then here's, I guess, the cover of Titan. Packins presents Titan Mouse of Might. You almost got one, and I don't know. One of those looks like kind of a Batman version of a mouse. Maybe a bat mouse, maybe. Anyways, Chris, that's a powerful concept, and it sounds deeply personal. How did this idea come about, and what led you to self-publish it? Gary, my name is Gary Shipman, and I'm the creator of Titan Mouse, comic of the Titan Mouse comic book, and it is my pleasure to present you the highly anticipated issue number 10 of the Titan Mouse series. At a young age, I fell in love with the comic book medium, and I'm so happy to be able to share my stories and art with you. As an artist, Working in the industry on some of the biggest properties in pop culture, I have been desirous to make my own stories. Real heroes that face with courage impossible situations, overcome hardships, and deal with their own inner demons. Things that we all face in our normal day to day lives. That is why, as hard as it has been, I have tried to create something that inspires, gives hope, and has value. I feel the work I am doing now is some of the best I have done. Chris, let's talk about your craft for a second. How would you describe your art style and your creative process? Gary, I have been drawing for most of my life, studying from some of the greats Frank Miller, Klaus Janson, um, Bill um, Sienkiewicz, Sienkiewicz, um, John Byrne, Mike Mignola, Tim Sale, Arthur Adams, etc. Chris, and who's helping you bring all this to life behind the scenes? Gary, I do most of the heavy lifting with the help of my wife, Rhoda Shipman, on editing. Chris, how's production going on the new issue? Where are you in the process right now? Gary, I have 10 pages done and hope to have the whole thing finished by the end of February. So by the end of this month, then. Chris, every creator learns something new on each project. What has self publishing and crowdfunding taught you along the way? Gary, I have learned that you have to love comics a lot to work in comics. Hmm. Chris, do you see Titan Mouse continuing beyond this issue, or are you looking ahead to other projects in your universe? Gary, I have a lot more to tell in the overall Packins Land universe, in which Titan is a part. Which Titan is a part. For your let's see, and then Chris asked, for your fans and backers, are there any special perks or features they can look forward to with this campaign? Gary, there are several stretch goals that will be unlocked when reached. Chris, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to say to your readers and supporters? Gary, I love that I have gotten to work on my own comics over the years, and thank you to all of you for all of your support. All right, well, that kind of breezed through pretty quickly. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and get ready for the next book that's being featured, Return of the Rooftop Koreans, um, by T.Y. Lee or Lee Tai Yon. Yon. Um, let me go grab the link here. See where will we find this? And this one's a Kickstarter campaign. All right, so let me see here. This sounds like a pretty interesting title, to say the least. All right, and then let me go. Alrighty then. All right, so here's the links for this book. It's a Kickstarter campaign. You guys want to go check that out at some point? There's a link there. Okay, so let's get into this then. Return of the Rooftop Koreans by T.Y. Lee. In parentheses here, Lee Tai-yon. Lee Tai-yon. All right, so let's find out what this book's all about here. So Chris Braley. For those just hearing about Return of the Rooftop Koreans, what's the quick pitch? What's the story all about? Lee Tai-yon. Return of the Rooftop Koreans is an action thriller that follows Ernest Gwon, a Korean American shop owner who is forced to take a life during a violent robbery. In the aftermath, riots spread across the city, and Ernest must lead a new generation of rooftop Koreans to protect his community. Set in the present day, this is a fictional story inspired by the true story of the rooftop Koreans from the 1992 LA riots. The book has a total of 148 full-color pages, 117 story pages, plus bonus content. Sounds interesting. So were these rooftop Koreans? What were they, vigilantes or something like that? Is that what this guy's kind of getting at here? Chris, that's a compelling premise, especially drawing from real world events. What sparked the idea for the book, and why did you decide to self publish it? Lee, I first came up with the idea during the 2020 George Floyd riots, which reminded me of the 1992 Los Angeles riots and the story of the rooftop Koreans. I remember thinking, quote, what if the rooftop Koreans made a comeback? And that question became the foundation for my graphic novel. I was surprised to learn there has never been a comic or graphic novel about the rooftop Koreans. Actually, quite honestly, this is the first time I've ever heard the term rooftop Koreans, in this capacity. So, does sound like an interesting story, though. So this will be the first. I chose to self-publish because I wanted to tell a raw and authentic story without any censorship. So, Chris, sounds like this one's going to hit hard. What kind of readers do you think will connect most with this story? Lee, it's an R-rated action thriller that's best suited for readers who enjoy gritty, grounded action. It will appeal to fans of The Punisher, Death Wish, Dirty Harry, and Taxi Driver. Wow. Look at that. They got somebody on a ventilator in the hospital bed. Chris, let's talk about your creative side a bit. How would you describe your storytelling style and your process for developing a project like this? Lee, my style is strongly influenced by Korean cinema, particularly films like Park Chan Wook's Vengeance Trilogy and The Man from Nowhere. This is the first graphic novel I've written. Back in high school, I wrote and drew a few comics that were, let's say, embarrassingly bad. Now that I'm much older, I decided to give comics another shot. But this time, I hired professional artists to handle the artwork. Hmm. Yeah. At the very least, one of the things I'm gonna probably look into is I'm gonna try to find out what these rooftop Koreans were. Maybe later on after the show here, because now I'm kind of curious to find out what that's all about. Anyways, as we continue, Chris, you've assembled quite a team to make this happen. Tell us more about the artist who helped bring Return of the Rooftop Koreans to life. Lee, I collaborated with a talented creative team um, to bring um, Return of the Rooftop Koreans to life. I found the line artist, Overlapper, um, OV Lapper, OV Lepper. Oh, okay. I found the line artist, Overlapper, on Instagram and was drawn to his unique style, which blends Eastern and Western comic influences. I found the colorist, Doni uh, Kayono, on Facebook. I love how his bright, constraining colors contemplated the line art. Their talents helped to give the book a cinematic feel. Let's see. Um, Chris, that's awesome. What does your production workflow look like and how far along is the project? Lee, I started by outlining the story and then writing the script, which I polished with the help of an editor. Next, I worked with the line art with the line artist Overlapper on storyboards. Then he completed the pencils and inks. Afterwards, I handed over the pages to Doni uh, Kayono to color. The book is completely done and has already printed. So this guy's ready just to get it out there, then, I guess. Chris, congratulations. Finishing a 148 book is no small feat. What's been the biggest takeaway for you through the self publishing and crowdfunding process? Lee, self publishing and crowdfunding were a lot harder than I thought it would be. Producing the book itself was the easy part. The hard part has been marketing it and convincing people why they should give it a chance. I've learned how much effort goes into managing a creative team, finding vendors, and building a social media following. Hmm. Hey, Metal. Does Tony Moon make an appearance in this book? I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know who Tony Moon is, but in fact, I don't even really know what a rooftop Korean is, but I guess based on the little description they did give, I'm guessing that rooftop Koreans were, I guess, maybe some vigilante group or something that was active during the LA riots, I guess. But I'd never heard of them until now. But anyways, as we continue on with the article, of course, here, let's see. Now that you've completed such a massive project, what's next for you? Any plans to continue this story or move on to something new? Lee, there are currently no plans to continue the story in Return of the Rooftop Koreans. It's a self-contained, complete story. I am definitely open to the possibility of a sequel in the future, but for now, I'm currently focused on creating a completely different graphic novel in the fantasy genre, as well as a prose novel in the horror genre. Wow, this guy's trying to get busy, isn't he? Um, Tony was one of the original rooftop Koreans from the LA riots. He is active on Twitter these days. Well, okay. But, anyways. Well, apparently, then, Metal, you seem to know more about the rooftop Koreans than I do. So, um, you know, but so you could probably answer this for me. Is my assessment correct, or were they kind of a vigilante group during the LA riots, or because based on the description here and at least the premise of the story, that seems to be where it seems to be going. But so, Chris, very cool. And for collectors or backers, are there any special features or crowdfunding rewards they should know about? Lee, Return of the Rooftop Koreans includes bonus content in addition to the 117 story pages, such as character designs and an art gallery. Our Kickstarter and Fund My Comic campaigns offer unique items like a set of clear plastic trading cards, t-shirts, 5 different eye-catching variant covers. So, T.Y. Lee, whose real name is Lee Tai-yon, Old Leper, and Doni uh, Kayono. Hmm. They were vigilant for sure. They were a group of immigrants that had a business on one of the baddest streets during the riots. They barricaded up on the roof to defend their property. Ah, okay. So they weren't as much vigilantes in the sense like Batman or Superman or the Mystery Man or anything like that. They simply just took militant because I think one of the things that Lee did mention in the first paragraph of this particular interview was that the main character in the book or in this particular comic was forced to, I guess, kill somebody, and that's what eventually led to all this. And this story was in fact inspired by the LA riots. So So, anyways, before we wrap up, so Chris, before we wrap up, anything you'd like to say to readers who might be discovering your work for the first time? Lee, thank you for checking out Return of the Rooftop Koreans. This book is packed with high stakes action, unforgettable characters, and one of a kind story you won't find anywhere else. We hope you'll give it a chance. We are also currently working on more books and can't wait to share what's coming next. All right, and then the final, and the, and then here's of course, the final comic that's being featured in this threesome here. Three Brothers Gruff by Jonathan J. Colton. Let me go grab the link for that. And this is a Fun My Comic. I'm just here waiting for the Muppet Show in half an hour. Okay. All right. Anyways. All right. Let me go back in. Hey, Brothers Gruff. And of course, a friendly reminder to everybody, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, I'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Anyways. The links right there. I want to go check that out. So let's get into this portion of the article then. Three Brothers Gruff by Jonathan J. Colton. Chris Braley. For readers just discovering Three Brothers Gruff, give us your elevator pitch. What's the story all about? Jonathan J. Colton. In a reimaging of the classic Three Billy Goats Gruff, three Shatter brothers, renowned troll hunters, are hired to rescue a kidnapped princess. From the formidable troll Olaf, only to discover she doesn't need saving, and the true danger awaits her at home. This isn't a fairy tale, it's a wild, gritty saga of loyalty, betrayal, and epic combat, blending Dungeons and Dragons like creatures with Games of Thrones style action and politics. The first issue is 24 color pages, penciled and inked by Italian superstar artist Vincenzo Mercogliano. I'm saying that name 3 times fast. Chris, that's a fresh twist on a classic. What sparked the idea, and what made you want to take the self-publishing route? Jonathan, Three Billy Goats Gruff was my favorite story as a young child. I started riffing on it at one point and asked it the classic comic book question, quote unquote, what if? I began imagining, what if the goats were in fact satyrs, troll hunters, and brothers with distinct personalities? Maybe one elder, strong and wise, one brave and accomplished, and one with all the strength and weaknesses of youth, and how their sibling dynamics could turn the classic story into something more dramatic and action packed. Sounds like some good premise there. It felt like a natural fit for a comic because the structure lends itself to punchy panels, escalating annex, and that satisfying payoff. Um, I decided to self publish it because I've had great experiences controlling my own creative destiny. Going independent lets me make exactly the book I want without compromises. It's a lot of work, but the freedom is worth it. Which, of course, we've heard quite a bit through many independent creators, right? Right, Metal? Hmm. Hmm. Chris, sounds like you know exactly what you're making this for, or who you're making this for. What would you say this book appeal? Who would you say this book appeals to most? Jonathan, anyone that is a fan of Savage Sword of Conan, ElfQuest, Berserk, Red Sonja, or even The Witcher and Game of Thrones. So you got a mix of comics and manga here. This is a comic book. This is a comic book for you. Into that some of that art. Say now, Chris. Let's talk about your creative approach. How would you describe your writing style and your process for developing a story like this? Jonathan, I begin with a script and then write the whole thing, beginning to end. In my practice, I've discovered that in order to stick the landing, you have to begin with the end in mind. Everything in this comic is geared to build toward the ending. Hmm. Chris, you mentioned Vincenzo Mercogliano earlier. Tell us about assembling the creative team for Three Brothers Gruff. Jonathan, I found my greatest blessing in Vincenzo uh, Mercogliano, in parentheses here, Italian superstar penciler and inker, in parentheses, through Facebook. He's still working on his English, but luckily for me, I learned Italian while living in Italy. So our Zoom meetings are quite productive. I didn't think I could afford a talent of his level, but it never hurts to ask. And after he read the script, he really believed in the story, characters, and message, and was willing to contribute his maximum efforts to bring Three Brothers Gruff to life. Here's some of that artwork, I guess, of the Shinzo here. Chris, that's a great collaboration story. How's the production coming along? Where are you in the process right now? Jonathan, all 24 pages of the book have been penciled and inked, and we are ready to go to print. Chris, nice. Every project teaches you something. What have you learned so far from self publishing and crowdfunding this comic? Jonathan, um, the biggest thing was two heads are better than one. Shenzo has brought so much enthusiasm for the story and made some small changes that have had a big impact. I'm grateful to have him as a creative partner, and the synergy is real. Chris, once Three Brothers Gruff #1 is out, what can fans look forward to next? Jonathan, this book is #1 of a 5-issue miniseries, and if the first book funds well, issues 2 through 5 will likely be 40 pages each, 40 plus pages each. That would be roughly 180 to 200 pages of the first graphic novel. We currently have 7 graphic novels outlined and an overarching epic story. Wow, a lot of work plans there, isn't it? Hmm. Chris, that's ambitious. Sounds like a huge saga in the making. Before we wrap up, where can readers check out the campaign and see more of your work? Jonathan, the campaign is live right I guess it's supposed to say right now, I guess. And it's also running on Kickstarter for wider reach, launching around February 3rd, 2026. So basically it launched yesterday with perks like exclusive editions, prints, and early access. So this article came out a day after this book uh, launch. Hmm, interesting. We've got a trailer out there showing off the art and vibe, plus pencil previews that prove it's all handcrafted, no shortcuts. I'm really excited about the reception so far and hope fans of Twisted Fairy Tales and any kind jump in to help make this a reality. If you're into that kind of fun, chaotic heroism, come check it out. The campaign just launched yesterday, so good luck, Jonathan. All right. So there we go with that. So let's see now. That's it for this installment. If you're a creator ramping up your own campaign or have a comic available for purchase online and you want to be featured in our weekly column, click here so we can hopefully help you get more eyes on your crowdfunding comic project. Until next time, support indie comics. Alrighty then. There we go with that. And give me a sec while I go back up top here. So, so to kind of go back real quick and just review the 3 books that were featured in tonight's Indie Comic Showcase. First one, of course, was Titan Mouse here. So here's the link. Or of course my YouTube and there's a link in there. And I believe that was the Fund My Comic link. If you guys want to go check that out. And moving down to next one, Return of the Rooftop Koreans. Of course, Titan Mouse was done by Gary Shipman, by the way. Now going to Return of the Rooftop Koreans by T.Y. Lee or Lee Tai-yon. And I'll highlight the links for that. And I do see we do have a comment, but let me at least get through these. There's the Kickstarter link for that. Again, if you want to go check that out. And then, of course, to move down to the final one here, the final book that was featured tonight, featured in this article. Three Brothers Gruff right here. All right, I'll check out your comments in a moment here. Just finishing up here with this stuff. Again, here's the link, and I believe it's the Fund My Comic link. All right, so let's see now. Oh, I came in after you went over Titan Gary Shipman. Over Titan. Gary Shipman is a cool dude. Always deserves support. And I've never had a negative interaction with Gary. He even donated an illustration to my group's coloring book. All right, so that's cool. Hopefully, then you can help get the word out for him to help promote the word for him there. Then, since you already have some history with him. All right, so with that being said, of course, now we're going to, of course, move on to the wrestling wrap up. As we're going to go ahead and move on. Look back to last night's NXT as some major things were happening. Of course, one of those things being the fallout from Ava's departure from the WWE, as well as, of course, looking ahead to tonight's Dynamite. So first off, let's talk about what happened on last night's NXT. Among some of the things that happened on last night's NXT, of course. So Robert Stone was named interim general manager of NXT on the heels of Ava's departure from the WWE. Ava, a.k.a. Simone Johnson, the daughter of The Rock, who basically has indicated she no longer has interest in pursuing a wrestling career or career in the pro wrestling industry. So, but Robert Stone will be taking over, at least on an interim basis, general manager. We'll see what's going to be going down. We'll talk about what happened later in the show. The NXT last night opened up with a triple threat match for the Women's North American titles. Izzy Dane successfully retained over Lola Vice and Thea Hall, with some help coming from Kalani Jordan coming out to attack Lola Vice. Of course, Indy Dame also had her culling teammates at ringside with her of Sean Spears and Nico Vance. In a semifinal match for number one contendership for the Speed title to see who will next challenge Jasper Troy for the WWE Speed title, Elio LaFleur took on Charlie Dempsey, defeated Charlie Dempsey in just under 3 minutes. Then we also had the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team titles defended on the NXT show as the Elegance brand of Heather and M by Elegance, with Ash by Elegance and Personal Concierge in their corner, defeated Zaruka of Sol Ruka and Zarya, in which a miscommunication led to Sol Ruka hitting her finisher, the Soul Snatcher, on her own tag partner, so Zarya, who many are high on right now. Sol Ruka, many are high on her right now. We'll get into that in a moment here. But coming up short in that, as as in that, of course, and then later, coming out a little later, of course, JC Jane came out to kind of call out Sol Ruka, which eventually led to Zaruka, as well as Ren QC with Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray. Kendall Gray, the former, I believe, ID Women's Champion, or the current ID Women's Champion, rather, coming out to all lay claim to JC Jane's, NXT title. Only for Robert Stone, in one of his first acts as commissioner, as interim general manager of NXT, comes out to set up on believe it's a show on the 24th, 3 weeks from last night's show, in a live show in Atlanta, having setting up a tag team match in which the person gets the pinfall will get the shot at JC Jane. So a tag team match between Ren QC and Zaruka, in which the person in that match, so Ren QC of Kendall Gray and Ren Sinclair, taking on Zaruka of Sol Ruka and Zarya, coming out to, and there'll be a tag team match in which the person gets the pinfall will get the shot at JC Jane. So also on last night's NXT, Channing Lorenzo and Lexis King teamed up to defeat, with Ariana Grace in their corner, teamed up to defeat Chase Hughes, Uriah Connors, and Kale Dixon, with Andre Chase in his corner. And in the main event, in a ladder match to crown a new NXT champion, as it was vacated by Obafemi during, after his last title defense for being called up to the roster, Joe Hendry outlasted 6 other competitors to become the new NXT champion. Dark State, of those competitors included Dark State's Dion Lennox, current Evolve heavyweight champion Jackson Drake, Keanu Carver, former NXT champion Ricky Saints, former Evolve champion Sean Legacy, and Shiloh Hill. All right, so that's all we got for the NXT side of things. So now let's go ahead, take a look at what's going down on tonight's see what's going down on tonight's Dynamite. By the way, of course, NXT came from the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. But on tonight's Dynamite, coming from the Pearl Theater at Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada on TBS, the matches that, of course, signed include in six-man tag action, the Don Callis family of Josh Alexander, El Clone, and Konosuke Takeshita are taking on the Death Riders trio of Daniel Garcia, Continental Champion Jon Moxley, and Pac. And in a mixed tag team match, you have Orange Cassidy teaming with Tony Storm to take on Brittany Brooks and Jordan Oasis. Hangman Adam Page is set to take on Don Callis family member Mark Davis. Mark Davis coming off of the loss by him and Jake Doyle as they tried to wrest the AEW Tag Team Championships on from FTR, in which Jake Doyle is now out injured. Almost only a couple weeks after making his AEW debut, so he might be out for a while. In a Women's World Tag Team Title Eliminator match, in which if the challengers win this match, they will earn a shot at the AEW Women's World Tag Team titles. Mega Bad of Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford look to earn a Women's World Tag Team title shot against the current AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions, the Babes of Wrath of Harley Cameron and TBS Champion Willow Nightingale. Kenny Omega is set to take on Andrade El Idolo. Ricochet defends the national title against Jack Perry. And in another world title eliminator match, MJF is set to fend off the challenge of Brody King. Again, if Brody King wins, well, in these eliminator matches, if the challengers either win the match or last the time limit, they earn a shot at the title. So if they lose, then they lose a chance the chance to challenge for the titles for the foreseeable future. So, anyways, let me just check one other thing real quick here, and then I think AEW will be having some big events coming up here in the near future as well. Yeah, so on Valentine's Day, actually, AEW will have the Grand Slam Australia event, and the following day, House Rules Australia. And the next big pay-per-view will be Revolution on March 15th. So coming up the weekend, Valentine's Day weekend, they'll be in Australia hosting some shows. So that's all we got for the wrestling wrap-up. So now, with today being, of course, Wednesday, February the 4th, 2026. Let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in each history. History! 1986, 76, 66, and 2021. All right. So first off, we're going to head back 60 years ago. And on this date, 60 years ago today, back in 1966, Walt Disney's Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree premiered on this date back in 1966 This marks the debut of A.A. Milne's literary character Winnie the Pooh as an animated franchise. On this date, 66 years ago, Walt Disney's Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree premiered on this date 60 years ago today. So now, of course, moving ahead to the year. Now, of course, moving ahead 10 years, the year 1976. On this date in 1976, Thunderbolt Patterson would defeat Bruiser Brody in Miami, Florida, for the NWA Florida Heavyweight Championship. On this date in 1976, 50 years ago today, Thunderbolt Patterson would defeat Bruiser Brody in Miami, Florida, for the NWA Florida Heavyweight Championship. So now we move on to 1986. As I clear some of this stuff out. On this date in the year 1986, the 20th and final issue of Micronauts from Marvel Comics went on sale on this date back in 1986. It was 75 cents, had 32 pages, edited by comic book creator Ralph Macchio, not to be confused with the actor. Micronauts is written by Peter B. Gillis, with Kelly Jones on pencils, Daniel Bolandi on inks, lettering done by Janice Chang, and Bob Sharon doing the coloring. So on this date, 40 years ago today, back in 1986, the 20th issue of Micronauts from Marvel Comics went on sale on this date back in 1986. All right, and finally, on this date in 2021, 5 years ago today, 5 years ago today, year 2021 here, the third season of the show we know as Magical Do-Re-Mi premiered on this date back in it's 2001, not 2021. My mistake. On this date back in 2001, 25 years ago today, the third season of Magical Do-Re-Mi premiered in Japan on this date back in 2021. So with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. Of course, we'll be back here with more news tomorrow. And of course, I'll be joined this Sunday by Rick Piper from Cross Comics, as we will be getting comics that went on sale from DC, and we'll be beginning our look at comics went on sale in August of 1940. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow.